In this video, we're going to take a look at activity 3.1.4, while loops and if-else structures, dealing with part 3 on if, then, else conditions. So, what we have going on is we've used some if conditions in part 2, but what happens if we want to expand the code to see what do we want to do if a condition is false? So this is how we can use an if-else statement to make this happen. So here we have a provided code that we're going to kind of see how this is built together and kind of see what our expected behavior should be from this program. Now we're going to go ahead and move into VEX code and we're going to build this program. Comment block will be the first thing that we grab, and we'll call this the part 3 provided code. Then we're going to go ahead and grab a forever block for a loop, for an infinite loop, and then we're going to go ahead and grab an if else block here, and I'm going to place that inside of the loop, and we're going to build out an operator where we're going to say if the sensor value of the potentiometer angle in percent is greater than 0, then we want it to do this. So now whenever I say the if-else statement, you're going to hear me utilize the word for else a lot of times otherwise. So it's kind of like thinking about, you know, if this happens, then we're going to do this, but if it's not or otherwise, it's going to do these commands that we have in this bracket. So I'm going to go up to motion. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab, let's set our left motor velocity to, and we're going to go ahead and rather than having a value, I'm going to duplicate this potentiometer sensing block here, and I'm going to go ahead and place that in there. So we're going to build, much like what we did in the previous part, we're going to build out our code for that variable speed control. So you're going to see I'm going to grab a spin left motor forward, wait for 1 second, and stop the left motor. So right now, if it is not greater than 0, then the else would be otherwise. We're going to spin the right motor forward for, let me make sure I get in the else condition here, and we're going to spin that left motor forward for 180 degrees. Alright, we're going to go ahead and see that, alright, if this condition is met, so if the potentiometer reads greater than 0, then it's going to do these commands, these 4 blocks. It's going to run these on a continuous loop. So it's going to control the motor velocity, it's going to spin it based upon the potentiometer's reading, wait for a second, stop the motor, and it's going to continue to loop these particular programs if that potentiometer value is greater than 0. If it isn't, otherwise, if it is equal to 0, then we're just going to spin the, and actually I need to change this over to the right motor, so we're going to spin the right motor forward for 180 degrees. So let's see if our program behaves the way that, or our devices behave the way that our program has been written. So right now my right motor is turning for 180 degrees. So what that must mean is that my potentiometer is reading at 0. It's not reading greater than 0. So that means these are getting ignored, these 4 blocks up here at the top. So what it's done is it's skipped the if condition, and now it's down here at the else. Now when I reach over and I go ahead and I turn the potentiometer to be greater than 0, you're going to see here the left motor is going to get kicked on, and now my potentiometer, now this is true. The if condition, we're reading greater than 0, which means now we're going to be running these 4 commands that are in the if section. So as I turn it, you're going to see it's going to look very similar to a code that we've just went through and the behaviors that we built in part 2. But as soon as I turn this back down to 0, that right motor is then going to kick on. So then that way that the left motor gets turned off. Once it's reading at 0, only the right motor is spinning for 180 degrees each time. And so it continues to go around. It counts 180 degrees and then goes again because it's looping. It's going and stopping after we've gone through and done that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit stop. So this was activity 3.1.4 part 3, where they wanted us just to go through and observe what kind of program that we were able to get from this. and see how to utilize an if-else condition. So we're going to move on to part 4 in the next video. So before I do so, I'm going to go ahead and go to File, Save As. We already got part 3 saved, so I'll change that to part 4. Now that I got part 4, I can get rid of this code, and now I'll be ready for the next section in the activity. So check out the next video, and we'll continue to work through activity 3.1.4 together using VEX Code v5.